All right, welcome to our career webinar, How to Develop a Machine Learning Career. Our speaker today is Ronald van Loon, the CEO of Intelligent World and an advisory board member here at Simplilearn. And our session today is co-sponsored by Freshers World, a team lease company. And before we get into the webinar, I would like to share with you a few controls for the WebEx system. Please enter your questions for Ronald into the Q&A box. We will be tracking those and queuing them up for the Q&A toward the end of the session. If you do put anything in the chat box, make sure you address it to all panelists so that he can see it as well as I, and then we will be logging some of the questions from there as well. But again, the Q&A box is the proper place for questions. And we will also be doing several polls during this session to ask your input. The first poll I'd like to do right now, which is 2 questions. What is your current job role? And how are you feeling today? We've been asking this since the beginning of the pandemic to make sure the people who are working in isolation are holding up well. And we're interested to know if you're a student, if you're already working in data science, data engineering, if you're in management or in an executive position, or if you're working as a professional in another area. About 10 seconds left on the poll. And if you are watching on YouTube Live or LinkedIn, you can put your answers in the comments. And let us share the poll results. So the distribution is mainly students or people in other areas, with a few managers and executives, not many people who are already working in data science. And that's not necessarily surprising because this is about how to get into a data science and AI related area. And the good thing is that almost everybody is doing well or in the middle. We hope that the information in this webinar will help the people who are not feeling as well with something that they can use in their careers. So let's go on and I will introduce Ronald. As I mentioned, Ronald is the CEO of Intelligent World. He's one of the foremost thought leaders in data science and digital transformation. You'll see, if you look into these areas, you'll see his name mentioned frequently. The #1 influencer in data and analytics, automation, and the future of the tech economy, as named by Analytica. And he is an author on a number of big data and data science sites, many articles and web columns posted. And again, an advisory board member here at Simplilearn. We rely on him heavily, and we thank him for being here today for this session. Hi, Ronald.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here again.
And wanted to talk about machine learning and why it's an important field. So let's start with the definition. What is a machine learning engineer?
Yeah, thank you, Stuart, for the kind introduction. And I see most people are feeling well, and as you mentioned, a few not, but let's make them feel well. And maybe first give a little bit an explanation why it is such an important topic and why we can have this discussion today. So I think the discussion is really relevant in today's climate for quite some reasons. So on one hand, we see that technology adoption has really skyrocketed. And advancement in this area has created a more dynamic business landscape than we have ever seen before. And businesses need AI and they need machine learning to thrive. And also they need it to innovate and to create a competitive advantage. And especially now in this digital world, and especially where everything happens remotely. And then without the right talent, these organizations, they can't implement AI and they can't implement machine learning technologies or achieve success with their AI and machine learning projects. So many organizations are facing quite some barriers, maybe even huge barriers with deploying their AI systems and their projects. So one of the biggest setbacks for these companies are currently experiencing is the lack of specialized AI and machine learning talent. And I think that's where you should become happy from if you look to what kind of demand there is for machine learning engineers. And I collected some statistics. 23% of the mature AI adopters reported that they have been a major or extreme gap between their AI needs and their current abilities. And that was a research from Deloitte. Some other statistics, 90% of 3,500 surveyed business leaders across the US, they said that the lack of skilled people was a major barrier to AI. And I think this reinforces the persistence of the talent gap. And this is an issue not only exclusive in the US, it's in Europe, it's in Asia, it's globally. And 23% of the organizations attribute AI and machine learning specialization shortages as a main barrier to their AI capabilities and to their AI initiatives. And executives are even now more concerned about moving to fast with their AI investments, because this is the main challenge. So specific skill sets are necessary to develop machine learning algorithms, to develop the models, and top technology companies in particular are looking for acquiring machine learning engineers in order to push the transformation in their algorithm development. Some other statistics, 94% of the job postings that focus on AI and machine learning terminology over the last year specifically target machine learning engineers. So this indicates that organizations today are deeply understand the impact and the potential of machine learning. And if we then look to some financial statistics, the worldwide economy will gain almost 16 trillion in revenue based upon AI and machine learning developments if we move towards 2030. So I think if you're not happy right now, you can become happy, because this is a direction where you should feel safe. And I think the individuals who are interested in a career in machine learning engineer will be able to enjoy job security in this exciting field. And I think next to that, there are numerous options where your career path could take you for aspiring machine learning engineers, or those who are potentially interested in exploring a career as an option, or data science professionals who are seeking to enhance their existing job role. And I think today's conversation is going to be both practical but also helpful. And then, of course, is the question, what is a machine learning engineer and why is it so popular? If we look more from a definition perspective, if we look to machine learning engineer is more a software-focused position that involves evaluating, it involves organizing, but also monitoring data sets. It involves building models. It involves improving machine learning systems. So basically, they develop and they manage platforms for machine learning projects. And there's a research firm, Gartner, a very well-respected research firm, that described this role as ensuring that AI platforms deliver against the technical and the business requirements. So it's quite an important role. And the role has some kind of evolved out of a combination of two roles. So on one hand, we have a software engineer, and on the other hand, we have the data scientist. So software engineers code and scale programs, and they develop the software systems for an organization. And the data scientists, they are analytically focused, and they work with big data, and they help to translate the data into action for a business. Now, a machine learning engineer can utilize both of the skill sets. So you can think of them as some kind of mix between a data scientist and from an IT perspective, and ensuring their machine learning models to run properly in production. So machine learning engineers, they are allowing different industries to leverage the power of intelligent disruptive technologies as this factors into the demand level for this type of role. But on the other hand, I think, and I must say, it's quite complex. They have to deploy and manage machine learning models that process and continuously learn from this massive, diverse quantities of data. They have to turn applications into production to realize business value, but also maintaining the compliance within the organization with the governance protocols, and governance is really critical for organizations. So it's maybe not the first thing that you think about, but it's really, really critical. So it's important to keep in mind that machine learning engineering is still considered to be some kind of new role, some kind of emerging role, and that is not really totally defined. So it can move into different directions as well. And they are at the intersection of, I think, three disciplines. You can think about the DevOps discipline, which targets infrastructure and processes required to scale application operationalization. You can think about data science, where theoretically models for driving machine learning are developed. And on the other hand, I think you can think about software engineering, and this focuses on the scaling, the accurate code that machine learning programs run on. So it can often be maybe a little bit of confusing to distinguish the roles between the different from each others. If we look to job listing, for example, they sometimes make it confusing because there's so many overlapping descriptions of job responsibilities, or blurring across different roles like data scientist, data engineer, machine learning engineer. And on the other hand, if we look to larger companies, and especially tech companies, they are more likely to understand the distinction across the roles, and they have the need for very specialized roles like machine learning engineer. So you often find a few data scientists working at smaller companies and assuming numerous functions that often more blend into more software machine learning engineering roles. But let's break it down with some differences in the roles. So if we look to machine learning engineering, requires software and developer experience, as well as mathematics. And software engineering is going to be a central focus of this field, as opposed to the data engineering and the business analysis and the research intensive work. So this involves automation or real-time APIs, for example, which we delve into a little bit later. Then machine learning engineers, they don't just build models, they also work on the software that runs those models. Then we have the data scientist on the other end. They perform data analysis with A/B testing, with leading strategies and leading initiatives, and focus on communication to the rest of the organization. Then we have, for example, data architects. They create more analytic applications and streamline data solutions. Another role is, for example, data engineers. And they work heavily with data. They streamline data pipelines, they manage databases, and they help with gathering and storing the real-time data. And of course, there's many different data science and related fields that we can use as examples. But I think the bottom line is your role as a machine learning engineer will involve programming and software engineering that have to do strictly with machine learning systems. And becoming a machine learning engineer, I think, is a popular and a growing field of interest, and they're highly sought across all the different industries. So it's not only the tech industries, which makes it even more interesting because you can pick between a lot of different roles and different opportunities, different industries. And even in this age of remote and hybrid work, I think the engineering skills are even further growing in demand because of the technology experts and the digital skills. They are needed more than ever. And this is further, I think, accelerated by the increasing need for machine learning and AI related specialists in the workforce. And I think on top of this popularity, becoming a machine learning engineer has its perks because it's one of the highest paid jobs in data science related fields compared to any other type of jobs we mentioned next, let's say, to a data scientist. And to give you an idea, in the US, they pay around $150,000 annually for a machine learning engineer. So these are substantial amounts, and I think if you really dive into this direction, you're secured for your future, and you can earn nicely, and next to that, I think you can live well from the money as well. So this makes it, I think, a highly competitive job role. So Stuart, I hope I gave a little bit of an idea from what it is and why it is so increasingly popular, which was this slide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's a great overview. And as you said, it's one of the things that's, as an emerging technology, it's a bit mysterious to a lot of people who aren't in the field. Um, that mystery always translates into high salaries because people view it as such a specialized skill and requiring such detailed knowledge and arcane or esoteric knowledge that people are willing to pay higher salaries for that. But I think one of the things that we'll learn today is that um, it's not magic. It's not something that is inaccessible to our audience members here. It's something that they can aspire to as a career and take advantage of um, the reputation and the mystery around it. So
Definitely.
what are the responsibilities of a machine learning engineer then?
But before I dive in, we hear you typing, so maybe you can mute if you're if I'm talking. That's
Oh yeah, I'm so sorry.
refrains from the typing. Okay. Yeah. So important question, I think, from what are the responsibilities, and I think that makes it clear as well that it is something that's reachable for everybody, but it takes an effort. So it's not like you're getting there in just a few weeks. But if you put your sense and your mind on it, you can definitely going for it. So it's probably also not unsurprising to hear that machine learning engineers, they are scarce, given the lack of talent, and also the current demand is very high. And I want to explain why it is such challenging, but I think valuable field. So machine learning engineers must cultivate a very robust skill set, and this includes programming languages, excellent math skills, but also the ability to comprehend theoretical concepts into statistics and in computer science. So they must be proficient in transforming models that might only work in a very specialized environment into powerful, scalable systems that are suitable for functioning in the business environment. So everything what you do has tremendous business value, but also tremendous business impact. So that's why it is so important. And machine learning engineers' responsibilities, they're going to vary depending on the specific career role and the specific industry. There are many different use cases where you can support it, and depending on the use case, the responsibilities and then skill set will differ as well, which I think we will go into it a little bit later as well. But generally, you're going to be helping organizations to scale their AI into repeatable, into a stable, and into a dependable process where it should focus on the outcomes that are desired for the use case that's defined. So you might be working closely with the model ops professionals, for example, who handle the post-deployment performance of the models and the operational continuity, because it's an end-to-end AI process demands data integration, it demands AI, and also accompanying software across the full AI lifecycle, from the design to the testing, to the deployment and the monitoring. As part of a machine learning engineer responsibilities, will be working with these other skill sets, so that you can ensure that the AI applications that are from high quality, that are performing well, and that they consistently deliver what they need to deliver. So some of the skills that you probably need is Python, is C++, is mathematics, including calculus, statistics, linear algebra, all which are frequent requirements for organizations that will ask for these type of roles. And you also need to gain machine learning and neural network skills in order to help to discover solutions to specific business challenges. So machine learning algorithm skills, they're equally important, because you'll be building algorithms that allow a machine to identify patterns within programming data and to train itself how to self-learn and how to think autonomously with the machine learning algorithms. So a few other responsibilities, I think, what you can expect if you are a machine learning engineer. Working with algorithms for performing computations, but also making programs more efficient and more effective by pinpointing the problems that need to be fixed. Also helping data engineers to develop data and to develop model pipelines, leading software engineering and software design projects, and possibly explaining processes to other business users, also to the leaders and the stakeholders. So communication is important, and the way you communicate and simplify your messages and make it understandable for also non-data related people. Also analyzing and extracting insights from massive complex data sets and choosing the right techniques to deploy this. So it's quite some responsibilities. That's more, let's say, of a generalized breakdown of responsibilities that could apply to many different circumstances. But to get a little bit more technical, let's pretend you're a machine learning engineer and you're leading a high technology company. So your responsibilities, they probably might include working with other teams throughout your machine learning, high performance computing, and your autonomous system development to generate the new capabilities that you have defined in your use case. Another example is creating scalable machine learning processes for autonomous systems, and sharing all the phases of development from ideation totally to the deployment, but also integrating end-to-end life cycles for distributed machine learning systems is an important part. And we have training, assessing, debugging deep learning models, as well as improving your distributed cloud GPU training methods for deep learning models, building tools and services to enhance machine learning systems beyond modeling options, like data quality augmentation or data distribution editing, but also discovering and deploying new technologies to enhance the performance and the sustainability of your machine learning systems. So this should demonstrate how demanding machine learning engineer responsibilities are, and the specifics of what you can expect to find out in a real world business environment. So your responsibilities, they are going to require soft skills as well to ensure that you're able to maintain the pace with the complexity and the evolution of the machine learning in general. So you have to expect to be able to manage your time wisely, to communicate effectively, not only to your team, but also to other internal stakeholders. Research, you have to do your research on your own. You have to be well organized and methodical, but also understand and process different kinds of business knowledge so you can quickly develop ideas. So it's, if you, let's say, sum it all up, it's quite a package from, let's say, what type of responsibility you have. But as mentioned, every organization is organized differently, and you can share your responsibilities as well, and you don't have to be the lead in day one. And also, if you look, because of the chief purpose is to connect model building and statistical aspects of the data scientist with the development of the production-ready AI and machine learning system and platforms and services. So you can expect to collaborate with all these other teams. And if we look to most of the careers, they will expect to communicate with data engineers, with data architects, with data scientists, with data analysts, and with the administrators. But that's more in your own team, in your own department. The other part is to communicate with the business and with the IT teams, like sometimes sales teams or development teams. So quite some responsibilities, but as mentioned, it's something, yeah, that you can grow in step by step and work on this responsibility step by step. So it's not something there what you get as responsibilities from day one. So hopefully there's some clear overview of the different responsibilities. It's a broad overview, Stuart, but I think I mentioned most of the aspects which are important.
That's great. So this slide also will talk about, you're about to talk about a question that's come up in the Q&A as I've been following that. A number of people have been asking about the need for programming skills and which programming languages are important. And so when somebody is moving into a machine learning engineering role, what are the skills that they're going to need to acquire, and maybe comment on what skills they should have as they're planning for it. What are the kinds of prerequisites that one should have, and what areas should one look to acquire as preparation for getting into this role?
Yeah, good question, and probably can expect indeed that many ask these questions because it's the foundation. It's
Yeah.
defining what you want to learn, what you need to learn, and how to define your educational path. So if you decided you want to become a machine learning engineer, how do you do it basically? So maybe let's start with computer science and with coding. Learning coding languages is the way to start, such with Python, for example, and with R for machine learning or statistical purposes, or SQL for data management. We can hear you typing.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So if we look to the basic level of computer science related to educational, that helps with the concepts such as algorithms, like sorting and searching, or data structures like graph trees and stacks. And you also have to consider learning machine learning algorithms, which fall into supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. I think this is important area and an important foundation, and this may involve linear and logistic regression, k-means, clustering, decision trees, for example, to give you a little bit of an idea. So data is going to be an integral part of your work as a machine learning engineer. So you have to choose the right data sets and representation methods. You have to understand the data structures, but you also have to learn how to organize, how to manage, how to access your data. So that's, let's say, one part with regards to the coding. Then we have the math. Is similarly intertwined with many data science fields, including machine learning engineering, and it may require statistics, multivariate calculus, linear algebra. So you'll use the math to choose machine learning algorithms for your data or to set your parameters, since the machine learning models are derived from statistical models, and having a solid foundation and understanding of mathematics will go along the way. So let's briefly talk about neural networks. Neural networks mimic the human brain by using algorithms that are composed of input, outputs, and weights and a bias. So they're used to predict outcomes in decision-making processes, and they show how making single changes affects other network neurons. And I'm bringing this up because it's important to start understanding the terminology, the lines of thought, and the potential points of reference and study. And also we can segue and talk about deep learning later on. So deep learning is part of many great innovations with AI, such as natural language processing or image recognition, or autonomous vehicles as well. And it uses large amount of data, and it requires more computational power, also with high performance computing. So deep learning technology, the frameworks like TensorFlow or like PyTorch, they are going to be an integral to your work as a machine learning engineer. So TensorFlow has many built-in machine learning algorithms and data sets, and it has Keras, which is one of the most used deep learning frameworks as well. And then we have PyTorch. It's very intuitive and great for research, more so than it is for production. So if you use Python as a programmer, you will probably find PyTorch more simple to use, but TensorFlow has more coding languages to support. So if we look to PyTorch, was created after TensorFlow to create a more intuitive alternative to TensorFlow, but TensorFlow was soon updated to accommodate popular PyTorch features. So you could say that both the functions similar are modeled after each other in many different ways. So to summarize, from the data science side, expect to obtain skills like SQL, Python, or Java, or other programming languages, but these are the main one. Also data modeling, probability, statistics, math, hypothesis testing, and machine learning algorithm development strategies. I think that's important part. And on the software side, software engineering side, you need the skills in data structures like multidimensional arrays, graph, stacks, skills in system design, and you also need the knowledge in computing, approximate algorithms, complexity, as well as computer architectures like cache and clusters, for example. So this is, I think, from a technical perspective, the skill set that you need, which is the foundation for, let's say, your career path and for your educational path as well, Stuart.
Excellent. Yeah, that gives a good overview, but also it answers a number of the questions that are coming in through Q&A. So how do you become a machine learning engineer? What is both the educational path, but also the career development path?
Good question, especially I think for if we look to the audience where not many people are a machine learning engineer yet, or maybe hardly anybody. So if we look to the higher education to becoming a machine learning engineer, you need a bachelor or even a master in fields such as computer science or in statistics or in mathematics, machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, and computer vision. These are the main areas where you can either do your bachelor's or your master. And there are many online educational resources available to get your professional certification. And of course, you can think about Simplilearn, who can really help you out in this direction and getting you started. And this is great because you have lessons that are created by expert educators and by professionals who actually work in the industry, and you can replay courses and your lessons, and you can improve your studying, and you can do it at your own pace. So if we look to certifications that are available that prove your knowledge in a particular subject and skills, these are great to add to your resume in order to gain the interest of these employees that really are looking for the machine learning engineers and further extend and customize. You can further extend and customize your education as well. And you can even, I think, take specific courses that are relevant to certain requirements that you find from potential employers. You can get different certifications, including machine learning, AI, or data science, in all various different kind of capacities, or in specific fields of your study, where you can dive more into, for example, reinforcement learning or personalization, or what we just mentioned already in TensorFlow. So building your own machine learning projects, I think that's also a great way to learn how to become a machine learning engineer, which you can do in your own time, in your own pace, and you can practice your skills. You can learn all kind of new relevant skills. It's more a trial and error, own paced type of education, and gain more experience and understanding of the job requirements and working with different type of use cases. It can sometimes be quite difficult, but after pursuing the right education, I think, and learning everything that you need, this is going to set you up for your future. So building machine learning projects includes then defining your problem statement. You can also think about labeling data sets, testing, performing analysis of models, but also deploying and monitoring your models. And this is the most, I think, basic explanation about building machine learning projects, and they are much more involved in let's say technical and complex type of projects. So let's say that you're finally ready to pursue your job as a machine learning engineer. At least that's what I think you're here for. So you have your education, you have your skills ready, and you actually have some different options to consider. You can become a lead machine learning engineer, senior machine learning engineer, principal machine learning engineer, machine learning software engineer, and there's also various different data science roles. And this is just, let's say, a few examples. And if you look in on the job sites, they're all different kind of titles that are used, and you can branch out and find the best role that fits with your skills and fits with your interest. You can also apply to different roles and gain more experience and start to tailor your skills accordingly. So just start a certain direction, see what you like, and then grow further. Just start somewhere, and I think it's, at least was my experience. Start learning and by doing and trying to find out what you really like. And I think if you're in this direction, you should have advanced degrees and certifications in computer science. You should have, I think, as well in math or in statistics, if you're going to this route. Also can think about a master's degree in machine learning, neural networks and deep learning. A master's degree could be very helpful, and focus at strong problem solving and analytical skills. And of course, coding languages and working with machine learning libraries and understanding the data structures and the data modeling. So let me break down what educational skills and skill requirements might look like across a machine learning engineer's careers as they advance. So for entry level, you might be expected to design and to build models that align with AI technologies. So you have to understand your organization needs from a business perspective and create projects that meet this type of needs, often designed by automated technologies that introduce more efficiency. So you need an advanced degree in an engineering discipline, in statistics or in computer science. Maybe even in engineering certification can be a direction. And employers might require that you have a master or even a doctorate in a relevant discipline, demonstrated skills in maybe emerging technologies, but also robust programming and mathematical skills, so you can build algorithms. And they might also want to continuously learn new programs and new languages to improve your existing machine learning skills. So for a junior level position, you might have proven hands-on experience that's relevant job for a few years, 2, 3, 4 years, and expected to assume that more responsibilities like leading a junior team and assisting with training and new engineering entrants, for example, that's the path where you can start sharing your skills as well. So you need to demonstrate your expertise, probably in deep learning and machine learning technologies, share them with the others, and the ability to work in teams on specific projects, whether it's remote or whether it's on premise, depending how you work. If we look more, let's say, for a senior position, you have to demonstrate high levels of expertise in data science, high levels of expertise in deep learning, as well as in machine learning frameworks, and the willingness to continuously learn new skills in AI, machine learning, as this domain is developing so quickly, so you can't sit still and wait and say, hey, I have done my education, now I can stop. And I think you have to provide a demonstration of successful projects in relevant areas, and relevant areas depends on the industry, depends on the topic, depends on the type of models. I think that's a total summary how to become a machine learning engineer, and then let's say either junior or senior positions, Stuart.
Great. And that does address a number of the questions people are asking about, how to get into this area from a starting position, how to get into this area from experienced positions in other areas. So we'll get into that in the Q&A. This is kind of a silly question, but which industries need machine learning engineers today? And you might more easily say which industries don't need them.
Yeah, the second question is maybe harder to answer than the first one. So you see every industry where data is used, you see this involvement, and you have some advanced industries in the tech industry, in the healthcare industry, and more some laggards, maybe construction, but as well there you see quite some advancement. So I think the interesting part about the machine learning roles is that they're still evolving on one hand, and that it's constantly changing. And yeah, this is going to help you in an exciting career, in a challenging one, and find, let's say, your direction in the field, where you think, okay, where can it help? So when you eventually start searching for a job in this field, you might find the job opportunities for applied machine learning. So how many organizations describe machine learning engineering roles? So that's, I think, important. If you start, that not every industry describes the role in the same ways. And this helps to illustrate just how new and evolving this field is, that it's not, let's say, a predefined role. It's not terminology that's standard. So machine learning engineers can find careers in basically any industry that's big in automation, that's big in big data, and looking to accelerate more efficiency, more accuracy of the systems. And of course, everybody knows the companies like Uber or Amazon or Spotify or Facebook or Google or Apple. These are really the leading organizations using machine learning engineers to develop interesting products and services. Now, if we look to the other industries that are using machine learning engineers, there's also some industries that are currently facing more disruption. And then it's not really an industry, but let's say it's a discipline. If you look things like the supply chains are continuously disrupted right now, whether it's the pandemic or ships in the Suez Canal that are stuck, or any type of other reason. We see a lot of disruption in e-commerce, in finance, in healthcare, in high technology. These are really the industries that live in some kind of digital thunderstorm, as I call it. And I think this isn't a coincidence. These industries are facing complex challenges due to disruption. They need to quickly ramp up the digital transformation or advance their current capabilities by using the AI and the machine learning. But let's start with the supply chain. So if we look to the global supply chains, they're very vulnerable. So as I mentioned, not only from the pandemic, but also because of the trade wars, the market volatility, software breaches, critical value supply chains has really come into the spotlight since the pandemic, as everybody noticed what's the effect if your supply chain breaks, or if something is going on, you don't have your products or your services anymore. So these challenges have demonstrated how important machine learning is to securing your supply chain. So organizations are using AI, machine learning, to implement autonomous planning systems. They use it to use unified pricing or demand optimization, but also you can think about raw material recipe optimization. If your supply chain is changing and certain ingredients you cannot get from your supply chain, you need to optimize that based upon, let's say, what is available and from which countries it's available. We see as well end-to-end control tower transparency, so keeping up this overview in your supply chain. Optimized freight contracting is another big one, and as you can imagine, routing and vessel sharing in optimizing the whole transport flow. All of this is difficult to actually execute, and 60% of these projects end up being late or over budget. That's what we see. That's some research from McKinsey, and that means that this domain is still quite immature. And machine learning engineers, they are needed to help to productize the AI machine learning and ensure that organizations can manage broader supply chain value and manage the issues better. Another industry which is one that's really developing fast, which is in disruption, is the financial industry. So financial service organizations, they're amidst this massive change, and they're challenged by search in all different kind of digital interactions that are leading to new threats, like fraud, synthetic identity fraud, bot attacks. So that's something that's quite hard to manage, and you need to really be on top of it to protect yourself, to protect your clients. So federated models, unsupervised learning models, and automated model optimization, they're being developed to help to combat these threats via AI and machine learning driven solutions and platforms. But it's, let's say, not only the organizations that develop these machine learning algorithms, the hackers do as well. So that's the battle between the two camps, the good and the bad. And these provide automated customer authentication, if you look to authentication systems and verifications, but you can also think about other systems like automated case management systems, smart fraud detection. And now with the cryptocurrency, you have compliant crypto monitoring, autonomous dark web intelligence. So what you see is that there's many different areas where you can dive into, where you can improve your skills. And on one hand, from the business side, from the algorithm side, and you see that as a machine learning engineer, you can develop the models for all these intelligent systems and ensure that the systems are able to continuously self-learn and accurately identify all these suspicious patterns and new activities, and which is a cat and mouse game, I think, which will never end. Then we have, let's say, the healthcare industry also developing quite quickly. So healthcare institutions, they are drastically changing and streamlining operations for the back office functions, like using administration-wide ERP systems to ensure the patient documents and insurance information is updated, to making sure that nurses and doctors and staff, that they can stay current on the communication and how and when they administer the care for the patients. So that's in healthcare. One important part is the operational part. The other part is the disease prevention and the detection of analytical tools using big data, and they're being used to give healthcare professionals the insights into the factors that, let's say, contribute to specific disorders or what triggers particular diseases, but also who might be at high risk for developing certain diseases. So, and what you see there, machine learning engineers can help to optimize these type of systems so that healthcare institutions have the access to the information that they need in order to work more efficiently and reduce the time for analysis from doctors, and save tons of money, but also improve the quality. The last industry I would like to discuss is the automotive industry. As you probably know, the automotive industry is extracting a lot of value from data, and data is one of the key areas where the automotive industry can earn money in the near future, such as using vehicle data to predict component risk failure. So manufacturers can better issue the vehicle recalls for specific cars and for models, for example. And this can save the automotive industry really billions of dollars, I think. So we see that data is collected from sensors now more and more on the vehicles. And this also ties into our previous example, that this data that's used for analytical and for anomaly detection. So as a manufacturer, then you get earlier insight into why certain components are failing, or you can predict when they will fail, and you can replace them already before they basically fail. And this improves the production development for these car manufacturers. So these type of software systems, they are created, they are implemented, and they are monitored by machine learning engineers. So you have a very important role in this whole process, and everything what you do has a huge impact on the bottom line for these automotive industry organizations. And if I look to some companies that have machine learning engineering resources, they even build their own AI software, for example, for data extraction. So you see that automotive manufacturers, they start building their own AI software because it becomes the core of their business. I just wanted to add, as far as the career opportunity, a lot of machine learning engineers, they're going to be attracted to all kinds of let's say, flashy, innovative companies with a very modern culture. And yeah, this is understandable. But these type of organizations are usually also on the cutting edge, and they're able to provide the higher salaries. They provide the better incentive that attracts specialized and often let's say scarce talent like the machine learning engineer. But many great companies are challenged by pushing transformation in AI and machine learning forward. And with this current talent shortage creating let's say, a higher salary bracket, it's becoming even harder for these smaller and maybe not so known, not so flashy type of less innovative companies to acquire these machine learning engineers skills and people. But working at a smaller company and helping them becoming data driven, helping them to become innovative, to become an AI first type of company, I think it can be very rewarding as well. And as I gave you all the examples, the impact from your role is substantial. Everything what you do has a direct impact on the bottom line, which means goes either profit or loss. So your impact for smaller companies can be substantial. And if I would, let's say, negotiate in such a role, you can say, okay, how can maybe next to the salary, you can get some options or different kind of benefits from these type of organizations if you perform well and if you develop new type of services that really bring them great value, because your role is tremendously important for these type of organizations. So I encourage both, let's say, the prospective and the current machine learning and engineering professionals, not just to overlook these type of opportunities from these smaller companies where you can really bring great value, I think, and bring an impact in this company. So I think yeah, if you look to different industries, Stuart, many possibilities, but you have to look for the organization that fits what you like and yeah, fits basically what you want to do.
Excellent. And let's move on because we're just about out of time, and I know you have a hard stop. And you've talked about the roles previously, so let's do a quick poll of the audience. 30 seconds. What skills are you most interested in learning? Of the various skills here, which ones? And you can pick more than one. And when would you like to start doing that? I've seen in some of the Q&A chat comments that we have a number of people who are already enrolled in Simplilearn certification courses in AI and machine learning. And so congratulations to those folks, and leave this open for another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the poll results. Not surprising that machine learning is the most popular choice, followed by AI and data science. And a substantial number of folks want to start right away, and that's always a good choice. So we don't have time for a lot of questions, but let's ask a few. Right now, my screen has gone dark. Hold on for a moment while it refreshes. One question that I've seen from several people is that they have a number of years of experience in another field, control engineering or in business administration or management. And they have two concerns. One is it difficult for somebody at that level of their career to move into machine learning? And is there any resistance to people of a certain age becoming machine learning engineers? So if you address those.
Yeah, I think if you are totally have if you have a total business background, I think it's smart to start in some kind of junior position, junior data scientist, junior data analyst, to get acquainted, start your education. And maybe you can start with a degree in science, maybe even in internship. And it seems like doing a step back. But if you have both business experience, and then especially if you have it in a certain industry, and you can prove you're either having a data science study or you have already a data science degree, and you start as a, let's say, a data scientist or a junior data scientist or data analyst, maybe even, you quickly can learn. And from there, you can define, okay, how much programming skills do you have? What can you develop? What can you learn? Do you have certain limitation in this? You can find out what kind of math skills you have. From there, I think it's the best way to find out what is your best role. And I see many people making the switch and then moving more to some kind of team lead role, instead of, let's say, maybe moving to a machine learning engineer or to a data scientist. But if you have this combination, on one hand, you understand the business, which is crucial for organizations. And if you're, let's say, used to some kind of business role, often you can communicate very well with the business. And if you then also can communicate with your data and data science team, and you can translate this, and you can think from the business and define what needs to be created from a business perspective, that's where the business value is. And that's where you are some kind of the bridge between, let's say, the business and the data science team, and have a quite unique proposition compared to maybe even the machine learning engineer or the data scientist. So maybe if you totally have no background, take a step-by-step approach and then see how you can move along and how you can basically develop your career and see where your limitations are, but on the other hand, also see where the opportunities are within an organization. And I think there are plenty of opportunities. That's where is a big demand for organization. And we haven't discussed it today because we totally focusing on the machine learning engineer, but it is definitely something where is a huge demand within organizations for these type of roles. So yes, you can. That's, I think, the answer, but it's quite a route, and it's hard to predict upfront if you have all the skills. But if you go that route, there are plenty of opportunities for sure in different type of directions. I see it's at least 18:30 over here, Stuart. As mentioned, I have a hard stop. I'm sorry about that. Are you still there? I think we lost you, Stuart. So Stuart not coming back. I really would like to thank everybody, and I advise you to have a look at the AI. You're back. To have a look at the AI and machine learning courses as well. Take a look at the Simplilearn different type of courses for machine learning, for AI, and see which route and which career path fits best with you.
Thank you very much. And I will take over from here, Ronald. I'll let you go.
Thank
I
you.
apologize for that. And if you will all bear with me, I will, as we say goodbye to Ronald and thank him for his time, I'm going to.
I leave this computer on, so.
Yeah. Okay. And unfortunately, we don't have time to address your questions, of which there were very many, because of Ronald's hard stop. I'm going to try to coordinate with him afterward to get an email out next week that will address some of these questions. But in the meantime, I wanted to thank everybody for being here today. And I have a couple of last announcements. And we do have certification courses, most in machine learning, and also a postgraduate program in AI and machine learning in partnership with Purdue University. You can visit that at the address that's on the screen. Our partners, want to thank our partner Freshers World for helping us today. And Freshers World is part of the Team Lease group of companies, helping freshers find their first jobs, but also Team Lease has other portals for people in more senior positions. So please do check them out. And if you are interested in digital leadership, in general management, in entrepreneurship, in startups, we'd ask that you join us next week, or 2 weeks from now, I should say, for a fascinating webinar with Professor Jag Sheth of Emory University. And he will be speaking about what the ideal profile of a digital business leader is in 2021, and whether, for example, an MBA is enough for people to manage a digital business these days. What does it take to become a leader, and how does one develop into a leadership role? So I've dropped the link for that into the chat window. I do want to drop the information about the 2 courses, both the intro into machine learning and as well as our comprehensive postgraduate program in AI and machine learning. And those are both in the chat window as well. And want to invite everyone to connect with us on our social media channels on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, which all you'll find us at Simplilearn. And thank you all for being here today. Again, I will try to get an informational email out next week, but for those of you who've been here throughout this webinar today, we will be sending out proof of attendance certificates over the weekend, and we will be also sending out before that a link to the recording of this session. So thank you all for being here, and we really appreciate your time, your interest, and look forward to seeing you at additional Simplilearn webinars.